This is what I like to think of as my permanent collection. That is, knives that I have no intention of getting rid of once I review them. And a lot of the knives in this tray in front of you, and the tray is from my Gerstner chest, are knives that I've had for quite a while. Some of them are relatively new. And I just thought it would be fun to go through them because I haven't gone through them in a while. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this end and go all the way over, and then I'm going to go up and towards this end. Alto, there's quite a bit of money in these knives. I don't think that's a surprise. I've been, looking at knives for a long time, so I'm not super concerned about the money. The website has helped me get knives that I would not normally be able to get, and that's a good deal for me. But there are a lot of expensive knives here. There's not a lot of cheap stuff, and for that, I apologize. I do think that you could make a pretty good knife collection with cheap stuff. I just haven't done that, and that's a personal preference of mine. So let's start. So this is the Urban EDC Supply Baby Barlow 2.0, and this is a knife that was designed by Judson Lundquist, produced by Rayot Knives, and sold by Urban EDC Supply. And this is one of my very favorite designs ever. It is absolutely beautiful for all different sorts of reasons. Its symmetry, its color choices. The action is great. I actually like this knife better than the prototype. It's significantly better. It also has a couple of little cool Easter eggs, like if you can see in there, you can see Justin's logo. So like if you were to do this, you can see, actually, it's too much. There you go. You can see the logo through the handle scales. Really great knife. M390 blade, great overclock deep carry pocket clip, which, by the way, bears a striking similarity to that pocket clip. For good reason. We'll get to that knife in a second. The next knife is the only knife in this tray that I'm like not 100% convinced that I'm going to keep. Actually, there's two. But right now, it's my only auto, and this is the ProCheck Run 5. Really, really great knife. A review of this knife is coming very soon. I had it for about a year. I wanted to get familiar with it and, let it rotate out and then get familiar with it again. There are a lot of things about this knife that I like and a lot of things that I really don't like. It's a polarizing design, but I ultimately think it's a pretty darn good knife. So this particular runt, I believe, is 20 CV. Yep, 20 CV, and obviously it's a button lock auto, and it is an out the side auto. So deep carry pocket clip. Really nice size knife. This is my Spyderco Dragonfly in ZDP 189. These are scales that were provided to me by a reader. They are micarta. I oiled them, and they have taken a beautiful, beautiful finish. As you can see, I do use and carry this knife regularly. This is one of my favorite knife designs ever. And with these scales, it is just that much better. This is a gorgeous little knife. This will never go out of my collection. The next knife on this, and that was in ZDP 189, by the way. The next knife on this is the Canal Street Cutlery AG Russell exclusive boy's knife. A boy's knife is a pattern that's basically a small Barlow. As you can see, this knife is really, really nice. It is super well finished. I mean, the handle, everything is flush. It's smooth, clean, gorgeous design. There's a relatively high polished satin finish. The bolsters are nice. The action is good. The blade shape is gorgeous. This is probably my absolute favorite. Well, I have two favorites, but this is one of my favorite traditional knives. It just does everything you want in a traditional knife. It does it really well. Super thin, super small, very slicey. Great, great, great knife. This knife has been out of production forever, and it is impossible to find. This knife is the small shimmery. This is the first small shimmery that Gareth Bull ever made. He made it for me after I reviewed the regular shimmery and noted some criticisms. He fixed those things and then contacted me about a year later and said, hey, you want to buy that knife? I said, sure. Not realizing what knife he talked about. This knife is really, really great. It is absolutely dead simple. In many ways, I think this knife is even better than a knife that's going to come up, which is the Sabenza. This knife is even simpler and even more refined than the Sabenza. This is the production version. It originally was bead blasted, but as you can see over the years, it has acquired this absolutely stunning real world stonewashed finish. You can see that there are marks on the clip because I use my stuff. Next up is a knife I got for my first Father's Day. with both boys. This is a Spyderco Chaparral and Raffier Noble. I love this knife. It's absolutely gorgeous. I will point out that there's a little bit of a, like a spot, some discoloration from rust that built up. CTXHP is probably the least stain resistant steel that is currently being used. Maybe D2, but boy, does this stuff rust like crazy. No folders use steels that are all that rust prone anyway, and that one really is quite rust prone. The next knife on the lineup is a knife that I think is probably the best flipper on the market, and a production knife. This is the Micro EVO 2.0. It has the new clip, which is the sculpted titanium clip. This is a design by Brian from Sharp by Design, and Brian Nadeau, and it is absolutely stunning. This is finger flush insert. The blade is M390. It uses Brian's ramped detent, producing absolutely the best flipping action you've ever seen. Had this knife for a long time. This knife is never going anywhere. It is great. The next knife is a Sebenza 31. It runs S45VN. I love this knife. The Sebenza is one of my very favorite knives of all time. It is probably as close to the platonic idea of a knife as you will find in the production market, and this being the only one that I think is better anywhere in the world. This is a great knife. It runs S45 blade steel, and it has that classic Reeve smooth action and lockup. The next knife on the list is a weird knife. This knife is the Kevin Wilkins Leaf Storm 9. It is a full custom. It took me years to track down this knife because Kevin releases them one at a time in various configurations. This one has an S30V blade steel. It has a green backspacer and a bronze pivot to give it a little bit of decoration. It uses Kevin's trademark texture, and it has a swedge, which very few of them do. I love this knife. It is a weird knife, but man, is it a good knife. This is the knife that I wish the Spyderco Leaf Storm would have been. The next knife is my most recent custom acquisition. This is the Tice Meads Dino, and it runs RWL 34 blade steel. As you can see, I do use this knife as well. I use every knife except for one. The action on this knife is just insane. It is absolutely stunningly perfect. Great knife. The next knife is another knife that may or may not stick around. I think I like this knife better than the other really stain resistant knives. This is the Teravantium equipped Train 365 Otter AT. So this is the Otter knife in a flipper configuration. Really great knife. Lots of skeletonizing in the liners. The knife is a nice size and weight. It is kind of ugly because they tried to shoehorn a bunch of modern features into a traditional design, but I'm okay with that. It's a good knife, and it will stay in the collection, probably. The next knife is probably the best value in the production world, probably the best value in the knife world. This is the Neutron 2 from TRM, Three Rivers Manufacturing. I have taken to putting an O-ring around the thumb stud. As you can see, there's a little space for it, and it makes the knife even just a little bit better. Some people like the thumb studs. I like them with the O-ring. Sorry. And it makes it just a little easier to deploy. It's a good knife. Really thin. I raved about that knife a bunch. This knife is the Triple Aught Design Hinderer collaboration. It is the Midtech Dauntless, Mini Dauntless, and it is fabulous. I think this is the best design knife Hinderer has ever produced. It is really great. This knife is a Versteeg knives blade. It's made by Kyle Versteeg, who made knives. I think he still makes knives, but he used to have a podcast with Jim Noka. I love that podcast. And this is one of the best knives I've ever seen. This is a super sharp, very compact, and you can see there it's got some rust on it. This is TM Hunt treated 01 steel, and it is a convex grind. It is mega sharp. It packs up just as small as any of these other knives. I mean, you can see, like, compared to like this knife, it's not that much bigger, and you get a fixed blade, which gives a ton of extra strength. Really great little knife. I love that knife a lot. The next knife on this is the 2021 run of the Indian River Jack, which is my other favorite traditional knife. This is a Northwoods Knives version of, you know, just a simple jackknife. As you can see, it is a spear point blade. This is 1095 steel. It has brass bolsters. This one has the canvas, the red canvas micarta, or the red linen micarta, and it is fabulous, just fabulous. Super thin, super slicey, easy to carry. This is everything you want a traditional knife to be. It's got good walk and talk. It's got a half stop. It's got a cool little slip. This is a great knife. The next knife on this list, in this tray, is the original Nundy in, this is Box Elder Burl. It has the original easy to deploy nail neck, and it runs S30V blade steel. It also has the old clip. This is a great little gent's knife and one of my favorite production knives ever made. The second to last knife is the jewel of my collection. This is the Sabi Swift. It uses his self-lock. It is designed as an art knife, and it is treated as such. I have cut stuff with it, but I do not cut stuff with it often. You press this little tab here, and it pushes the lock out, and then the knife closes. That's it. There's no way to engage or disengage. It uses a nail nick. It has Koa wood scales, which have retained their chatoyance and look phenomenal. It has two bolsters, one on each end, both of which were engraved by a master engraver using three-dimensional banknote style engraving that was done by a gentleman named Ray Cover. I don't use this knife, and I don't really carry it. It stays in its little pouch with some desiccants package, and that's pretty much it. I'm actually going to take the desiccants package out. I don't think it's getting any, it's not getting any real humidity. The last knife is a knife I use for size comparisons and is one of my go-to knives. It is the Benchmade Mini Griptilian, and this is the high-end edition. So it has the 20 CV blade steel and the gray G10 handles. I really like this knife. There is one other knife in my collection. It is on my nightstand, and it is the heavily modified Emerson Mini A100. But other than that, you have seen the sum total of my permanent collection of knives. There are a couple other things in there. There's a lanyard bead by Andrew Jean of Edge Observer, and then there are a couple of spare O-rings for the Neutron. Everything else is as you see it. Thanks.